Hi friends, it's Jen, and I have recently been a guest on a podcast, and I can't wait to share it with you. Hi friends, I'm Jen with the Budget Bounce, and we share the ups and downs of living life on a budget while we are tackling a $252,000 mountain of stupid debt. And we talk about being intentional with your money and making it work for you. So if you'd like to hear more about that, just hit that subscribe button down below and be sure to tap the bell so you'll get notifications every time I post a new video. Let's get into this whole thing with the podcast. Super excited. I was invited to be a guest on the Chain of Wealth podcast. It's with Dennis O'Brien and Katie Welsh. I had never heard of it before Katie reached out to me, but let me just tell you, for my research, I listened to about 30 episodes so I could understand their format and that kind of thing. And I really, really like their podcast. I've been listening to it ever since. So the podcast actually aired back in September, but it just took me a little bit of time to get this put together for you. So what I'm going to do is put this together in segments because it's like a 40-minute podcast. So this is probably going to be like a 3-part thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn this over and turn on the podcast. Now you're not going to have any video. It's just going to be of the screen when you're on the Chain of Wealth site. But the bottom line is you can hear my interview. And let me just say, this is the longest amount of time I have ever spent talking about our journey in one sitting. So I was a little nervous, but it turned out great. Dennis and Katie are fantastic hosts. And I'm excited for you to not only hear our story in this format, but also introduce you to Dennis and Katie with the Chain of Wealth.
3, 2, 1, 0. Hello, welcome to
episode 202, The Budget Bounce. Hey Money Clan, a very warm welcome to the Chain of Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Denis O'Brien.
And I'm Katie Welsh.
Katie, this conversation absolutely blew me away, and I really have a lot of respect for Jen.
Holy moly, talk about inspirational. Jen and her family have taken full reign and responsibility of the debt that they have, and they are just slowly but surely chipping away at over $250,000 worth of debt.
Yeah, it's a lot of debt. But Kate, what I really appreciate about them is their attitude towards it all as well. They are ready to tackle it, and they don't have much time to knock it out and get ready for retirement as well. So they're really focused on juggling a lot of stuff. But I think that they're doing the right thing. They're focusing. They are determined to make it work for them. And I really think that Jen and her family are really going to do well and achieve their goal.
It's stories like this, then, that when I was paying off my debt, just helped push me a little further along. And I think that through Jen's YouTube channel and, just getting the word out and encouraging other people, she is going to do so much more good than what she probably thinks she's going to.
I totally agree with you. Anyway, before we dive into today's show, if you guys haven't already, don't forget to join our Facebook community. You can join us. It's chainofwealth.com/group and come and tell us what you're busy working on. All right, Kate, are you ready to dive into today's show?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Welcome to Chain of Wealth. Here's your host, Dennis, inspiring you to begin your journey of financial freedom.
Facing financial ruin, Jen started a YouTube channel to have an outlet to talk about her family's financial struggles after her husband became ill and was unable to work for almost a year in 2017. Living paycheck to paycheck with no savings, they were immediately behind on debt payments after her husband missed his first check. She shares the ups and downs of living life on a budget and tackling a $252,000 mountain of stupid debt over at her channel, The Budget Bounce. Welcome, Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Hi, guys.
So, oh my goodness, $252,000 worth of debt.
Yeah, it's kind of scary.
And you said it's stupid debt. What do you mean stupid debt? Is that like credit cards? Is that, what would that entail?
Well, it's a kind of a mixed bag of a little bit of everything. So we had medical bills in there. They were relatively small, a very small percentage. We had a couple of 401k loans. We had 2 car loans. We had my husband's student loans he went to school from 2009 to 2013. So we had those student loans. And he also had back child support to pay. And we had a family loan. And then on top of all of that, 21 credit cards.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So what was kind of the moment that you were like, all right, let's actually add it all up and figure out where we're at? Like, when did that moment really come?
It was a very cold morning in January of 2018. And I literally had my sick and tired of being sick and tired moment. And my husband had been sick and not working, and he was not getting better at this point, and we didn't know when he was going to get better. And I am the breadwinner of the family anyhow, but not having his income, it wasn't until he stopped working we realized that his income was basically paying for our debt.
Right.
And so I had been carrying that and the worry and concern about his health because he was very ill. And just to be upfront, because we do talk a little bit about this on the channel, he was experiencing severe anxiety and depression. It was debilitating, and he had never experienced anything like that in his life. And so he didn't know how to handle it. And I was struggling to help him, even though I understood it because of my own experience with it. And so now here we are. That had started in July of 2017. It's January of 2018. And the collectors were just calling incessantly. They were so relentless. And it was a Saturday morning, and it was just before noon. And the 7th collection call of the day came in. And I was in the car with my husband, and I had been really trying to deal with and handle this stuff myself because he really was not in a position to handle this because of all the other things he had going on. And I just basically kind of lost it in the car and started crying. And I said, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I cannot continue with the calls. And we have to do something. And the only thing that I feel like I can take control of right now is our finances. And so we're going back on a budget. And it had been like 9 years we hadn't been on a budget. And so about 10 or 11 days later was February 1st and our very first budget.
So going back to that day, I'm sure like it was the worst feeling, but when you got home from that car ride, did you like walk in and immediately tally up all of your debt? And was it more or less debt than what you had kind of planned in your head? Because surely you kind of like had a rough estimate, but not like a for sure amount.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm a nerd when it comes to spreadsheets and money and all of that. I had been tracking my things going back to long before I met my husband. I had had a spreadsheet since like 1997 or something stupid like that. And so I had always had my thumb on it, but before my husband got sick, I felt us starting to hit the tipping point. I saw it coming. It was almost like it was in slow motion. I manage all of the money for the household. And I saw us with our terrible spending and not managing our money at all. And I didn't know how to slow down the train because I didn't have the strength to fight it. And it was easier and less uncomfortable to just keep going as is. And my husband getting sick really forced us to make the decision to make the changes. So what happened, me being that nerd, I literally went straight to the office, and I spent the most of that day and the next day gathering information, working on spreadsheets and that kind of thing to try to tackle it and bring it all in. Because during that time, when that train wouldn't slow down, I stopped watching it closely because I was scared. And so when I put that all together that day, it was actually $249,000 that day, but I had a feeling there were some other things out there that I hadn't found yet. And yeah, later it ended up taking us to 252.
Wow. So sort of like you were just like basically doing the ostrich technique. You like put your head in the ground and pretend like nothing's going on until all of a sudden you realize that, like, okay, this has got to stop. Like, it's out of control. You're getting the creditors like literally on your back at you all the time. And you're like, okay, it's time to bring about a change. So you fire up the spreadsheet, you add up all your debt, and then you get your number. And what was your reaction when you saw that?
I don't remember really clearly what my thought was when I saw it. It was more how I felt when I talked to Matt about it, because I just felt like I really felt like I had let us down, because he had his practices before we met. We've been together 12 years. Before we met, he lived as an ostrich. He let things go by him and that kind of thing. And that was not my MO at all. I'm very, very assertive and aggressive in, knowledge is power, right? So if you know what you're dealing with, you can tackle anything.
Yeah.
But I got so scared of the knowledge that I let it get by me. And I had told him a couple of different times that I hadn't been keeping an eye on it, but I didn't ever really talk to him about it until, after I remember we went out for coffee. And on Free Pie Day, I don't know if you guys have Village Inn where you are, but it's a restaurant here, and it was Free Pie Wednesday.
No, but we need one of those. I grew up by a Village Inn, and I didn't know there's Free Pie Wednesday. Man.
Well, there is here. So we went out for coffee and pie. And I took my laptop and we just laid everything out. And when I remember I was very emotional, and I felt terrible for laying it on him, but I felt like I couldn't start us on this journey without getting him up to speed. So yeah, it was more guilt. It was really how I felt when I talked with my husband.
Yeah. So I imagine then after that, it was like, all right, well, like you both had the time to sort of process it and, like have a pity party and everything else and get over that initial hump of like, oh my word, this is a massive mountain. What was your strategy then? Were you like, all right, let's pay it off? Like, how did you sort of determine how you were going to pay it off?
So first of all, one of the things that we were blessed with, aside from having all this awful debt, was we had a really nice income that actually, once we told our money what to do, we had plenty of money to pay for our debt with two incomes. The problem at the time was we didn't have two incomes. We only had one, because my husband was off work, and he only got, for the 10 months he was off, he only got 6 weeks of disability. He fought it the whole time, and they denied everything. That is a big gap in, here in the United States with mental health issues. And we even consulted an attorney, and we couldn't find anybody to take it because it wasn't enough to fight for. Mm-hmm. So we had nothing coming in. And so we learned that we have plenty to live on with my income. That's great. We had no concerns about losing the house or the cars or anything like that we needed to go to work so that we could keep the house and whatnot. But until we got that second income coming in, it was really tight. And I hadn't set up all the payment plans yet with all of the creditors that we owed. I mean, we were so far behind. And I tried to make 2 to 3 calls a month, I think is how I did it. I can't remember what my number was. My strategy was to set up payment plans with all the things that had my name on them, because they would talk to me. And those calls were all very emotional. They were very draining. And so my first goal was, we've got these things that we're paying like normal. We had a couple of credit cards that we never lost sight of. We always paid those and we're up to speed with. But then the next thing we needed to do was tackle all these things that had been charged off or were about to be charged off. And I wasn't able to cut all of that from happening. And so I started there. And then in the middle of it, Matt asked me to focus on the debts that had my name on them. And during this time, by the way, I had never not paid all my bills ever in my life. So I'm in my mid 40s. I've been an adult for 25 years and I've never not paid a bill. And now I'm not paying a whole lot of them. So he knew how much that upset me and wanted to focus there. The other thing that he felt really strongly about was that we have an emergency fund of $3,000. And I fought him on that at first, but there were things that happened later in 2018 that proved that, yeah, we definitely need to have more than just $1,000. So those were our first big things, right? Get some money in an emergency fund and then try to get all of our payments going so that we were getting back up to speed on everything.